everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm here today to give you my final rankings for the BookTube Prize semifinals Group A Translated Fiction. Okay, so the results have already been announced, and it is obvious to me that I did not quite agree with the rest of the judges in my category. So I'm going to go through why I put the books where I did, and if you end up reading them, you can be the judge on whether or not you agree with the way I saw the books. So my number 6 book was How to Order the Universe by Maria Jose Ferrada, translated by Elizabeth Bryer. I read this book in the first round of translated fiction, and I didn't give it a very high ranking in that round either. I put it at number 4, yeah. And I thought it was a lovely little story, but it just didn't have a huge impact on me. And I think that's kind of the way I tend to approach judging, is to rank the books based on what I think their impact is, what I feel like their strengths are, and whether or not I feel that they're worthy of being the best translated fiction book of 2021. And I just really didn't feel that that story was that memorable or that impactful to me. So I put it in number 6, and I will link below the vlog in which I talked extensively about my feelings about that book, in case you're interested. So my number 5 book was Inseparable by Simone de Beauvoir, which was translated by Sandra Smith. So I enjoyed this little novel. Again, it was the same type of novel. It was a very personal story. It was a story about a friendship between two young women that, goes from their late, childhood into early adulthood. It is a story about the constrictive society of France for women of a certain class at that time. And it was really a reflection of a relationship that Simone de Beauvoir had with a real-life friend that she was trying to put into a novel. And it was actually published posthumously. And so whether or not Simone de Beauvoir ever thought it was worthy of being a novel, we'll never know. It was, other people made the decision to publish it. And so for me, it was interesting. I enjoyed reading it, but I wouldn't say it had a huge impact on me, or, it had big themes that would be transformative for anyone. The next book I put in number 4 spot is The Anomaly by Herve Tellier, and that one was translated by Adriana Hunter from the French. So I go on quite extensively in the vlog as to why this book was where it was. It was very well written. It was very entertaining. It moved at a great pace, but I did not get involved with the characters. And for me, if I don't have a connection to the characters, if I can't feel something for them and feel, whether it's like or dislike, or whether it's love, I need some sort of feeling. And I just didn't really get that from the characters. This book was more about ideas. It was more about a concept, and Le Tellier used that concept and used the characters to display the concept. And that was basically what the book was about. And I know that some people that's the type of book they like to read. And that's just not my ideal type of book. So that's why this book didn't make my top 3. But despite that, it went through. The Anomaly and How to Order the Universe both went through. So for the first time, I think, in my judging history, only one of my top 3 books went through. And I found that rather disappointing, because at least if 2 of your top 3 goes through, then you feel like you had something in common with the other judges in your category. But I think for me, what this really illustrated was that my reading tastes and the tastes of the other judges in the category were actually vastly different. And Robert did say in his video that a lot of the categories were very close. So who knows, maybe those other books that I really loved were very close to getting through. But it was quite sad to me that they didn't. So my number 3 was Where We Come From by Stanišic, and it was translated by Damion and Searls. And this was my number 1 book in the first round that I read for translated fiction. It is a novel about place. It is a novel about war, about displacement, about home, about where you fit in the world. It's choose your own adventure. It has some deep characters that, evolve and change, and some beautiful family connection that just comes through the pages. And I know that, this is just an area that I happen to be very passionate about reading about. And so it was a book that I really, really enjoyed. Now, my number 2 book was The Art of Losing by Alice Zeniter, which was translated by Wynne. And this book has similar themes. So all the top 3 books for me shared some really common themes. This is a family saga. This covers 3 generations of an Algerian family who are dealing with the repercussions of French colonialization. And the first generation that we get is Ali, who fought in World War II with the French and returns to his mountain village in Algeria and becomes a fairly well-respected and man with a lot of authority and clout in his village. And when there develops a conflict between Algerian freedom fighters and French colonial army, things get messy. And so you see in the second part of the book Hamid's story. Hamid is Ali's son. They flee to France because they are facing death, because they are seen to be siding with the French. And they face, the trials and tribulations of an immigrant family who are trying to adjust to a completely new culture, a new language, a new way of being in the world. Hamid, being young, is able to adapt, but his parents do not adapt as well. And he faces a lot of turmoil around that. Hamid himself, but eventually makes the decision that he's going to put Algeria behind him and become as French as he can and just embrace the life that he has. And then in the third section, you hear from Naima, who is Hamid's daughter, and so she's grown up in France as a French citizen, and so she's trying to reconnect with her Algerian heritage, and she does that in a probably not super conventional way. So I thought this was very compelling. I did take a while to get into it. I found that the first section was a little bit harder to connect with, but then once I started rolling in the second section, I really connected with the characters. So I thought this was brilliant, and I'm happy to say that it was the only one of my top 3 that made it through to the final round. And so my number 1 was More Than I Love My Life by David Grossman, and was translated from the Hebrew by Jessica Cohen. And I love that book. I thought it had a lot of really complex and interesting characters. It had one of the topics that I enjoy reading about the most right now, which is bad mothers, and exploring the that concept of being a bad mother and what that means. And I think that may be one of the reasons that people didn't like it. I'm not sure. I thought that overall the story was really interesting. It did have a lot of plot. It moved, I thought, through a really compelling, interesting family dynamic relationships, and then going on a road trip. And so it had this plot element, but also this family connections and drama happening at the same time. So maybe there wasn't enough plot for some people, and they felt like more should have happened on this journey. I'm not exactly sure. But for me, it was a winner. And I thought it was, it had some beautiful reflections on being human, on forgiveness, on keeping secrets and how damaging that can be, on a part of World War II that I didn't really know very much about. So that was really interesting, a kind of Yugoslavian experience of Jewish people. And then, a lot of it was set on a kibbutz in Israel, which I also didn't know very much about. So I found that really interesting. So I really enjoyed that novel. It was my number one. It didn't make it through to the final. So I would recommend you read it if you're interested in any of the things I said before. Of course, there is a more extensive reading vlog that I've done on all the books that I read for this round. So head to those if you want even more details. And I will be reading in the final round for translated fiction, so you can expect another rankings video and more vlogs at the end of September. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon with another video.